We're here today with Samantha Raymond, who's running for District 1 seat on the Lincoln Land Community College Board in the April 2nd election. We appreciate you being here today, Samantha, and invite you to provide an opening statement as to why you're seeking this office.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. My name is Samantha Raymond. I'm running for Lincoln Land Community College Board of Trustees in District 1. I'm running because I truly care about community colleges. I'm not in it for any of the glory, or so to speak, or anything like that. I'm in it because I care about the college and I care about the students. I was a community college student myself. I worked at one for 2.5 years, so I know how it works from both the student perspective and the staff perspective. I want to help to promote the college as to the different things that they offer the community and that the community can do there. They do a lot of different things there, and I just think it would be a great way for people to get to know their community college. And I also want to help promote transparency between the board and the public, kind of help open up those lines of communication a bit, so that way the board has a better idea of what the public is looking for, since they're so intertwined.
Okay, great. So talk to us a little bit about your background and how it would be beneficial if you were elected to the Lincoln Land Board.
Okay, well, like I said, I was a community college student myself. I obtained an associate's degree from my home school at Kankakee Community College. And then I went back there after I finished my bachelor's at Eastern Illinois University, and I worked there for 2.5 years. Since then, I have moved here to Springfield, so this is now my community college. I chose to live here, so it is my home now. And I just recently finished my master's in public administration at UIS. So I feel that that education plus my experience with the school system, the ICCB system, would be beneficial.
You talked a little bit about this in your intro about everything that Lincoln Land offers, and it does offer a lot. It includes all or part of 15 counties. Mm-hmm. It's the largest community college district in the state in terms of land mass. It's got the main campus here in Springfield. It has its 4 outreach centers. It serves more than 14,000 students annually. What do you think the average Lincoln Land District resident doesn't know about the college that you wish they did?
Well, I think that there's a lot of things that they provide to the community outside of your traditional education. So, for example, there's like the culinary classes. You can go there, you can learn how to make a dish, and they'll help you pair it with a drink, if you're interested in that. It's a great meeting location. I have been to a couple events out there where it's a good space to use for things like that, and also just for like the lifelong learning. It's a great way for people to, if they're home and they want to get out and they want to do things, it's a great way for them to connect with other people and be helping to grow their knowledge.
Okay. What do you feel are the top pressing issues facing the college, and how would you as a board member work to address them?
Well, there's always the issue of declining enrollment and funding. I have always found that as unemployment goes down, which is a good thing, community college enrollment also tends to go down because people are working and they don't really need to go to school. Inversely, when unemployment is up, they go back to school because they want to get those skills to be able to get the few jobs that are out there. So right now, unemployment is doing well. So as a result, enrollment is slightly down, but it's cyclical. It's going to come back. So I'm not personally too concerned about that. There's always things that can be done. Like I know they're going out to all of the high schools. They're attempting to get to all the high schools to better help promote the college and to get students to enroll straight out of high school. And so there's that. And then also with funding, fortunately we now have a budget. So yes. That is going to be I think that's going to be on the mend. And they recently are in the process of selling bonds to help with the funding. So that will help as well.
You mentioned them going out to the high schools. Having a good relationship, a community college should have a good relationship with school districts within its boundaries. How would you categorize the relationship Lincoln Land has with its high schools?
I think it's doing well.
Okay.
A large majority of the student body, I think, comes straight out of high school, so they're doing a good job of working with them to get the students straight there. But like with anything, there's always room for improvement. That's just how it is with anything. I mean, I don't agree with standing with the status quo. There's always room. So I like that they're working on improving that relationship even more.
So would there have been anything from your community college experience or your recent MPA to help on the board? How could you be helpful to the rest of the board?
Well, in many ways, I feel that I am representative of the student body itself. The student body is 60% female. The average age of a student is 27. I myself am 29 currently. I'll be 30 this year. So in many ways, I am kind of embody the average student, so to speak. So I would be able to bring that perspective of what they're looking for in an education at LLCC. In addition, like with my time at my community college, that was like the greatest time I had. I had a more fulfilling experience there in some ways than I did at my four-year institution. So I feel like that's a great way for people to start and kind of move on from there.
Can you tell us more about that? That's
Yeah.
kind of interesting, because
Well,
about how much you valued that community college experience.
yeah, most of like the friends that I currently have, I made when I was at my community college. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still am friends with the people from my four-year institution, but my closest bonds are from the ones I went to community college with. And a lot of the instructors there are very, people like to discount, I feel like sometimes it's just community college. The education you get is just as good, if not better in some ways, than you get at a four-year institution. So I got a quality education at a great price. Currently my student loans are only to my four-year institution. I don't owe anything to my community college. And just even socially, I've had a great social life when I was there. I can remember being there on a Friday afternoon, not having any classes, just hanging out there with my friends, we're watching YouTube videos. So it was a great way to kind of build those relationships.
That's good.
Yeah.
So it just kind of always seems that Lincoln Land flies under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
The college does. And in your opening statement, you had indicated your hope, if elected, to be able to promote the college. How would you do that? Well, first of all, how is it that Lincoln Land kind of flies under the radar? Why do you think that is?
I think because there's a lot of pressure, especially when you're in high school, of what college are you going to go to. So there's a lot of pressure to go straight to the four-year institution and bypass your community college. Despite that, there is a study recently came out by the Jack Kent Cooke Foundation that shows that students who go to community colleges first have a much higher success rate in the four-year institution. So I think people just don't make that transition in their brains always, just because it's one of those things where it still kind of has that stigma in general, and not just Lincoln Land, but community colleges in general, which is unfortunate because they're great. So in order to help do that, I would want to be out there more in the community personally to kind of help promote these things. And there's many different ways that you can promote things. With newspapers, media, television, just so many. There's been commercials. So, there's so many different ways to kind of help highlight those different things.
How would you make yourself available then to, if you were elected, to the people you represented? I was on the website recently for Lincoln Land and noticed there's no way to contact board members. So.
Right. That is something that I would definitely want to fix. So first of all, I would like to possibly create an email so that way people could at least email the board if they have any concerns. And then what I would like to do is have sort of like a town hall kind of thing in my district, so that way if anyone has any concerns or things that they would want to see happen at Lincoln Land, then they would be able to come and tell me in person, or however they want to do it.
Okay.
How they would want to do that.
Okay, great. How would you categorize the relationship the college has with the business community? That's kind of the community college's other mission, is to react to the business needs of a community. How do you think that relationship is?
I think it's a good relationship right now, but it could always be better. I think that what would be good to do is meet with like different either CEOs or just leaders in the business world here, and see what it is that they are particularly looking for from Lincoln Land students. And I feel like that should be semi-regular, because businesses, they change over time. So what they may feel is important to them this year may not be what's important to them next year. So that's how I would handle that.
The economic development's been a huge push in our county for the last few years, and the county did a report 2 years ago now, I think, and it led to the formation of the Land of Lincoln Economic Development Corporation. That group's still getting off the ground, but I guess how would you say they're doing so far, the EDC?
I am not particularly super familiar with them,
Okay.
so I can't really speak to that.
Okay.
But I would want to work with them to help them get going and to improve and get that relationship with Lincoln Land going.
Okay. Let's talk about budgeting. That's something as a board member you would be doing on an annual basis. Talk to us about how you would approach the annual budget process as a board member.
Okay. Well, first of all, we would need to look at what we spent last year, and kind of go from that. And also need to see what grants and things are coming in from both the federal level and the state level, in addition to like your tax dollars. And then you also need to look at tuition and everything. Of course, nobody wants to raise tuition, and the Lincoln Land has been very good about that. They've only raised tuition in order to keep up with cost of living. So they've done well with that. So that's how I would kind of start, by looking at that. And of course, the school, in the college itself, the vice president in charge of that would, give us what they're kind of looking at, and then kind of go from there as to what programs are doing well and which ones aren't, because of course nobody wants to, but sometimes if a program just isn't getting the enrollment, then it may need to be cut. But that's kind of a general idea.
Do you think Lincoln Land is affordable for students?
Well, per semester for tuition and books, it's about $2,500 a semester. So depending on what your financial, outlook is, I think it's on par with other community colleges in the state.
Okay. Some of the budgetary constraints or problems that might come before the board would be mandated to you, say, by the General Assembly.
Right.
For instance, recently they increased the minimum wage in Illinois. It'll be $15 an hour by 2025. Mm-hmm. What effect do you think the minimum wage increase will have on the college?
Well, it will have an effect just in terms of staff salaries. So, I mean, of course, they're going to have to adjust to keep up with that. So that is something that will need to be figured out without seeing the specific numbers.
Yeah.
I can't really say
Sure.
how that would be adjusted for, but that would definitely need to be adjusted for.
At this month's board meeting, the contract for faculty was up for approval.
Yes.
And this is very bad of me. I did not check to see if they approved it last night. But when you're on the board, if you're on the board, how would you work to find that balance between ensuring the college offers competitive salaries to attract the best educators while being a responsible steward of taxpayer dollars?
Yeah, it's always a very delicate balance. That's just something I personally. My parents are both teachers, so having teachers with adequate pay is something that's very important to me. So I would definitely want to make sure that they receive a good contract. There's always going to be negotiations on both sides, because both sides, want the world, and both need to compromise. So that is something that would have to be done, on a case-by-case basis. I wasn't obviously involved in those negotiations,
I
so
understand.
I don't really know what their terms were, but I would be very open to working with them for that.
Okay. Last year, the Agriculture Department at Lincoln Land received $18 million from a trust
Yes.
to improve the ag program. Ag is certainly a huge part of the economy within Lincoln Land's district.
Yes.
I understand they're going to be using some of that money to build the Agricultural Center of Excellence.
Mm-hmm.
What would you like to see in that building and in that program in general?
Well, my mother's family is a farming family, so I'm somewhat familiar with what all goes into that. I know they currently have a combine simulator, and for other, farm mechanics, that is great. That would be a good spot, have like a dedicated space to that if there isn't one already. And I would also maybe want to see some sort of like hydroponics. I think that would be a great thing to look into, as well as this sounds really weird, but different types of soil to kind of see, for the students to see how different types of soil react to different things. So plants grow differently in different kinds of soil. Also water absorption is different in different kinds of soil. So I think that would kind of be a great hands-on thing for them to see how that works.
Well, that was
Hydroponics.
Okay, I don't know what that is. What can you tell me what that is?
It's kind of where they where you're growing plants with just water.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That was me just being completely...
Oh, no, you're fine.
I had no idea what that is. Thank you for letting me know what that was. Grow plants in water. Okay.
Yeah, at Kankakee Community College, they had a tower kind of structure, in the building set up where they had different plants in there growing.
Grow tomatoes.
They didn't there, but you could.
I didn't know that was possible. Okay. Very interesting. You talked earlier about how positive you found your community college experience. Do you think the Lincoln Land is offering those same opportunities through student activities, through athletics or things like that? Are those same opportunities available here that you enjoyed?
I think so, yeah, for sure. They have a great, athletics program there. And their common space, the A. Lincoln Commons, is a great, space for students to gather. And they're doing lots of great programming, for African American History Month. They had lots of great things. They had the food and music, and I'm blanking right now on the rest of the things they did, but they did a lot of different programming, which was highlighted at the meeting last night. And so they're doing great with that, and I'm sure that will keep going into the future.
Okay. Do you have any?
So you went to the board meeting last night?
I did.
Yeah. What was your sense of that? Had you been to other board meetings before?
I had not. So I really wanted to go to this one, particularly also with the contract negotiations. Those were handled in executive session, though, so I wasn't able to hear the results of that at that time. But I think it was a great experience. It goes typically like any regular meeting you would expect to go. There was a presentation about bird banding, which was very interesting and very informational. I wasn't really familiar with that kind of program before, so that was great to hear and to see.
It's impressive what they have out there with that bird banding.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not what you think of community college having that type of program.
Yeah, I hadn't really seen that at other places. My uncle is a biology professor at the University of Jacksonville in Florida, so he's probably familiar with that, but I was not.
So there didn't seem to be any kind of conflict either on the board or issues or anything like that. Fairly routine meeting.
I felt so. I didn't see any conflict. They discussed meeting with different legislatures, like with LaHood and Davis and Senator Durbin. So they kind of discussed those meetings and...
about the Pell Grant.
Yeah.
Some of the changes.
Yeah, with the Pell Grant and things like that.
Yeah.
So I didn't think there was anything out of the ordinary,
Yeah.
if that's what you're meaning.
So as you look at that, are there things that you'd encourage them to do as a board to be more, easily communicate with the public? Anything that you'd suggest changing the way they do their board meetings?
Well, during the meeting, they do have in the agenda for public comment. So if people did want to speak during the meeting, there is a time for them to
Right.
be able to do that. And there were a couple, people who were there for the meeting who were there to help present, some other things that they had. Like there was a person from the foundation there and things.
Oh,
So.
yeah, right.
And I wasn't sure how many people would, be at the meeting because. From my knowledge of other community college boards, they don't get a whole lot of people who
no.
attend, but there was quite a few people there. So I think that shows great interest in the faculty and staff that they're attending these meetings.
Sure. Yeah, that's good. That's all.
Was there anything else we didn't ask you that you want to share with us?
Not off the top of my head.
Well, then we appreciate you coming in today to meet with us, and we invite you to give a closing statement as to why voters should choose you on Election Day.
Okay. Well, like I said, I care about community colleges. I want to help bring a greater diversity to the board. The current elected board is all male, despite 60% of the student body being female. So I personally feel that the board should better represent the student body. So I'm hoping to change that. I feel that with my experience in community college system and my just pure passion for them, that I would be a great addition to the board.